What do CEOs need to know about sales these days? A lot. Outdated sales strategies and tactics plague most companies today. Listen to what innovative CEOs and experts have to say about how to change all that with Sales Talk for CEOs. Welcome to Sales Talk for CEOs. My guest today took a little bit of a different journey to get to be a co-founder. He was out there building large sales teams for some pretty big companies. But all of a sudden, he decided he needed to take a step back and maybe just be an individual contributor for a while. And that's when he found his current company, Impressive. And he took a chance on a startup that turned out to pay off big. So let's welcome Russ Macumber to the show.
Thanks, Alice.
Glad you're here today. And you're in Austin. And I'm on my way there in a few days. But I heard the weather's actually kind of not Austin-y. It's pretty cold,
it's been snowing actually. There's still a bit of snow on the ground outside right now. So not very Austin.
Oh my gosh. Anyway, well, I'm glad you're here. And I'd love for you to just tell the audience, what does Impressive do?
Great. Yeah, well, Impressive, we're based in Austin. As you mentioned, we are a marketing agency. We provide SEO and paid media management to B2C brands. So think like retail e-commerce brands and multi-site, multi-location brands. They're kind of the two main types of customers that we work with. You know, anything from kind of bigger small businesses to mid-market and then even some enterprise brands that people might know.
So you're providing SEO, obviously, to drive traffic to their website and to drive inbound leads.
Yes.
So later on, we're going to get a few tips from you on that, because I'm sure a lot of people listening would love those. But right now, what I want to do is take you back in time to that 2016, 17 time. What were you doing right before you met the founder of Impressive and joined forces?
Yeah, so I was running a national sales team for a tech company in Melbourne in Australia. You probably picked up the accent, so I am Australian. And I had been running that team in a range of different roles. I'd ran the inbound team, the outbound team face-to-face, and I was actually running the whole national team at that point. And you know, I enjoyed the role. I worked with really fun people. I got to travel a bit, but I wasn't growing. I just didn't feel like, you know, I was really challenging myself. So, I started looking for another role, and I also wanted to get back into just boots on the ground selling. Like I just felt like there was some opportunities when I was coaching my reps that I was like, oh man, I just want to be on the phones, actioning it myself. You know, I felt like a good time to sell. So, I found a role, got in touch with the founder. It was a small business, a very small business at the time. They were less than a year old. I was staff member number 6, and I was actually their first sales hire.
Oh, wow. Okay. So that founder had been for about a year doing some founder-led selling and probably got to that point where you realized, oh, I could really use a salesperson, right? Yep. And so you took a look at everything and thought, interesting. Yeah, I'll take a chance. Yep. All right. So you did, and you joined as an individual contributor seller.
Yep.
No ownership of the company at that time, right?
No. So at that point, like the idea was, as the company built, if all things go well, I'll start to build out the sales team as I had done, you know, many times before, which was, you know, an adventure unto itself. You know, when we got there, we're a startup. We're in a shared office space, you know, across a couple of different desks. There was a couple of other buildings in the space. And then as we started to take on clients, we started to, you know, stretch out our desks, move into other desks, outgrow the little building that we were in. We actually grew that. It was a pretty wild period from 2017 through till 2020. We went from 6 staff and about $500,000 revenue to close to 100 staff and nudging 20 million revenue. Like it was pretty wild. And I built out the sales team and sales process and documentation and renewals and whole range of things within that business over that period.
Huge growth. I mean, talk about scaling. Like that is exactly right.
Yeah,
tremendous growth, and I'm sure there were a lot of growing pains in there.
Huge. Yeah.
But
Huge.
you did start hiring people, you started growing, you started
Yep.
amassing a sales team.
Yep.
And how did that go? So you're still, in Australia
Mm-hmm.
and you're growing globally, I'm assuming.
Yeah. So, I mean, our main focus was Australia. In terms of growing pains, oh my, like so many. And I honestly, I was at the core of a lot of them because we were selling well. The brand recognition was getting bigger. We started winning awards. We had a lot of inbound. My guys had lots of leads to work with. And, I was on them, close. We were breaking record month after record month. But with that came, frankly, a lot of churn, a lot of staff churn, a lot of tension from inside the business. But the deals were closing at such a velocity that you just felt like, okay, well, there's churn, but I've got so much coming in. Let's just close some more. So, we did build it really fast. We did break some things, but we also built, a long-lasting company. There's some learnings that I picked up, which within this US agency have made this, structured quite differently in the way that I've built it out. But to the original question, it was Australian focused, but we started picking up American clients. Firstly, we were scaling Australian fashion brands into the US. We had some success. That went well. And then throughout my own network on LinkedIn and just through my network of, having been in marketing for such a long period of time, I started picking up some clients in the States. We were trying to service them from Australia. And anyone who's done business between those two countries knows that it's not ideal crossover for any type of servicing client facing to a good level.
Right. The time zone does make it a bit difficult. Once you get enough US clients, right? Then you've really got to try to staff for that. And
exactly.
And there are big challenges with it. All right. So you're building all this. You said you broke a few things, which I love because how do you get better when you don't break things, right? You got to break it to fix it. You started getting some process in place. You started growing into the United States, still not owning the company at this point, right?
Yep. That's
all
correct.
right. What happened next?
Okay. So then it was 2019. We realized, it just wasn't working. The servicing of the clients, there was actually two factors that really played into it. The crossover of hours for client facing was ridiculous. So I was doing 3 a.m. starts and 11 p.m. finishes and just trying to make it work. But then also the actual marketing talent that we needed to execute was here in the States, because as anyone who's done marketing here knows, it's 50 different countries all rolled into one United States. So marketing to those different audiences needed boots on the ground here. So it became pretty clear that we needed an entity over here. So then basically Rob, the owner of the Australian agency, and myself had a conversation around, okay, well, that's growing, but we're going to need someone over there. And I put my hand up and said, look, I'm going to do this. I'll take my family and we'll get it set up. It's going to take a bit of work. I've got 4 children and a wife. I still need to convince that this is an idea that we should follow. But that was 2019 where we kind of went, okay, let's do it. We had a couple of cities in mind. I had a spreadsheet we started at LA because there was Melbourne to LA. There was 2 or 3 flights a day. So that was going to be nice and easy, but the math never added up in terms of cost of living, cost of talent, taxes, etc. Landed on Austin, thought, okay, that's great. Came to South by Southwest in Austin in 2019, fell in love with the city and went, okay, boom, that's us.
Wow. Gosh, amazing. So, and it was just like super easy to pack up your family and, get visas and come to the United States and start a business, right?
Oh yeah, it's so easy. Yeah. Anyone should do it. No, not easy at all. So we had some challenges with the visas. Luckily, Australia and the US have a very friendly visa game. So after one little stumble with the visa that we shouldn't have gone for, we went for the one that we should have gone for. Got that over the line. Sold up everything back home. Then something happened in March 2020. So we were supposed to get on a plane. We had tickets booked. We'd sold our house, given away all of our furniture. We're living in an Airbnb. My wife says, there's something going on in China. I think you should look at this. And I was so gung-ho on, we're going to America. We're going to be fine. Just stop looking at the news. But of course, I should have looked at the news and our flight got cancelled. The world shut down. We were homeless for a day or two there. Not homeless. We were in an Airbnb, but we had to find somewhere else to put our kids and ourselves. And then we got stuck in Australia for 18 months through the lockdowns. So that was a challenge.
Wow. All right. Let me go back for a minute and just ask you to tell all of us, how did you convince your family that
Yeah,
this was a good idea? And
yeah.
was some ownership of the company coming along with that maybe helped, or like
Oh,
how
for
did that
sure.
all work?
Yeah, the ownership was a big part of it. But my wife and I, we'd always wanted to live overseas. And in 2009, my wife works, she's been in banking and finance law for 20 plus years. In 2009, we were all set to move to Dubai. This was before kids. And same deal, given in notice, we're ready to go. And then the global financial crisis hit. Um, so her job just went away. We ended up staying. Then we had kids and we thought, okay, well, we'll just travel. I guess that whole living abroad thing doesn't happen. When this opened up, and I'd already spoken to her about, I reckon there's something there. Once I basically pitched it to her, and I always joke, I had like a pitch deck ready to go of, okay, here's all the pros to going. And I literally just opened my mouth, what do you think about moving to America? And she just said, swear word, F yeah. Like she was all in, which was awesome. And I'm a big believer that for the people looking to do it, your partner needs to be as excited as you. I don't believe being supportive is enough. Like supportive is good to a point, but excited is we're in this together. So that
Yeah.
was,
Oh
I was
my
very
gosh,
lucky.
100%. That, for any entrepreneur, right? Having that family backing is so
Mm-hmm.
important in that support. All right. So you worked with the owner, figured out how you were going to set up the
Yep.
business to be the co-founder.
Yep.
You're just a couple years in at this point, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's 2019, and then
Mm-hmm.
of course COVID hit and changes everything.
Yep.
But you managed to do it. So were you starting to really set up operations in the US while you were stuck waiting for the world to open up again? Or how did you do it?
Yeah, so we had a handful of clients here from memory, 4 or 5 clients here at the time in March, and I'd been planning to come and visit them. And I had a team here. I had a sales guy here. I had some staff on the East Coast that I was managing in weird hours from Australia. So I'd already been working weird hours for a short period. That period just got stretched out a lot more. So I continued working with a bit of a hybrid team. I had some in Melbourne doing the work. I had sales and some delivery over here. And I was doing 3 a.m. starts for a lot longer than I had hoped to.
Yeah, wow. Okay, so they're still getting things set up in the US, waiting, and then finally you get your moment.
Yep.
You
Yep.
get to Austin. So, what did the sales team look like? What was the whole structure of sales at that time?
Yep.
And then bring us forward to where we are now.
Yeah. So I should clarify too. So there's the Australian sales team, which I built up, and we had there was about 7 or 8 in that team up until I left. I had one sales guy over here, and then but by the time I got here, I'd actually let him go. So I will say, and this is something for founders, looking to hire someone who's built out sales teams before. Part of me coming on board was I'm a sales guy. I've built out sales teams, specifically selling marketing for a number of years and doing quite well. What I learned over here in being a founder of the business and doing that on my own coin versus on a bigger company's coin, it's a very different proposition. It's a lot tougher, to be frank. Like when I was working for the tech company back in Australia, I'd always hire minimum 3 at a time, 3 or 4. I'm hedging my bets, and I always used to have a rule. There'd be, I pick up a sense within the first week or two, one's going to come out the gate like bonkers, like fire, just crazy enthusiastic, selling like crazy, overselling, they're going to burn out. That's great. I'll just milk it for as long as that happens. One's going to come out and just kind of miss the mark, not take notes, be disengaged. They're probably not going to work out. But then one of them is going to be a bit more methodical. They're going to take notes. They're going to slowly do repeatable things. That's where my energy goes. And by hedging my bets in the past, I had a pretty good success rate of getting 1 or 2 out of those 3 hires into the team. As a founder of a startup, I don't have the luxury of going, I'll just hire 3 people. Easy. So I've been hiring, and I've tried on a number of occasions hiring, one sales rep going through a really deep process of recruitment, the Who framework, big long interviews. And it's been tough. It's been tough. I've had 1, 2, this is like straight up. I think I've had 6. I've tried 6 salespeople. I did try 3 at once. I thought I'd give it a go, and I've tried 3 individually. And I'm yet to hit the mark here from hiring out a sales team as a founder. That's just
Russ, you are not alone. I don't want you to feel bad about this. You are not alone.
Yeah.
I know a lot of founders who go through a lot of salespeople before they kind of get it figured out. And probably one of the things you notice, and you even stated, look, I was at a big company with lots of dollars running this big team with lots of support all over the place. Then you get to, I'm the founder, right? And at least you had some sales experience, right? Because most founders don't, less than 25% of founders have sales experience, right? So if you think about it, wow, at least you came in with some sales experience, but then you realize it's not the experience I need because it was in a completely different setting. Yep. So you start to go, okay, this isn't working. So now you're running through salespeople, which is not cheap, by the way, right? Yeah. Yep, and still you need somebody to be selling during all this time you're running through salespeople, and some of them are selling and some of them aren't. So lessons learned, you got through that. And what happened?
Well, yeah. So from the last point of going, okay, that didn't work. And all the energy that I'm putting into trying to build up a sales rep, getting, call coaching and frameworks and helping them pitch and all these bits and pieces took away from me selling and doing the things that were helping grow the business. Basically from my big shift was going, okay, right now we are not in a position to hire out that function, but we've got someone who can do that at a really high level here. So if I can just upskill the rest of my team from an operational accounts perspective and have them take over that so I can step out, I'm just going to go into growth mode. From doing that mid last year, we've grown our monthly recurring revenue by about 40% and still growing. And that's just, and I still every day now, I have to hold myself back from giving my team, we're a small team, we've got 17. They come to me with questions all the time and I too readily give them the answer. I need to give them breadcrumbs towards the answer to help them, develop on their own. And I'm still getting there, but that the team's really come together, had a good period of growth where the clients are sticking. Our retention is really strong. We're delivering really good results, award-winning results for some. So it's been a learning process, and I really believe that we can get to, the way I'm selling, as long as I can get a team in place, we can get to 10 mil easily. Like that's not a challenge. So.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I see this, right? I can see it. I can feel it. And I want you to explain how you did it, because what I know is that you're not the only one. There are many founders in this kind of 8 to 10 year period going back to founder-led sales. But they've built an infrastructure around themselves that allows them to do, because let's face it, you do have a co-founder, but you do have to run the company. It's your job, right? Yeah. So that is, fiscally and, HR wise and all of the things that you have to care for all these humans and making sure we pay the bills. And yeah, it's a given. That is your job, right? Along with your co-founder. But you carve out the time to sell, and you can do it because you've set up these systems and you've trained your people. So let's talk about the support you've put around yourself. Like, one, okay, you've trained the ops people to do the ops so that you don't have to be involved in ops. That's fantastic. But who does, a lot of the admin work so that you can just do the face-to-face selling work and you're not chasing and worrying and wondering and, doing all the follow-up? How does this work? How did you set it up?
Yeah, for sure. I should clarify too, my co-founder's in Australia, so he's actually running that business and I run this business on my own. And interestingly, their sales team, which had whatever it was, 7 or 8 people when I left, they're doing, as you say, they've scaled it back. I think there's only 1 or 2, and he's out leading the charge sales-wise. But from this agency's perspective, so we run on EOS. I've got an operations manager. She's my integrator. Day-to-day ops really do fall into her lane.
A second, you guys have talked. You've heard me talk about EOS many, many times. It's the Entrepreneurial Operating System by Gino Wickman. A lot of you use it, but just to clarify, that's what he's using, EOS.
Yes. Yep. Sorry, thanks for clarifying. So my operations manager, who I took on as a grad and who's, made her way up to a point where she actually won the Global Agency Award for Agency Rising Star last year. So she's come a long way, but I've got a lot of put a lot of time and effort into her development into the professional that she is now is a big reason why I'm able to go out and grow the business. So she's in charge of everything day to day, but especially around processes, systems, our impressive ways, which is, our big SOP manual. She's constantly feeding into that. She's QAing. She's making sure that we're all staying on track, on time, so that I can get out there. Outside of her, then we've got, department heads across SEO, paid, and then account management. But they're all following the processes that she's documented based on our work together.
Yeah. I mean, having that integrator, oh my gosh, like what a relief, right?
Yep.
Such a big relief. Frees you up to do what you need to do. But also, I heard you say, I spent a lot of time with her. I trained her. I helped, right? It's like, you don't just, magically this person appears and they can do everything. No, not the way it works in the US. You've got to find the right integrator. So glad you found that. So, okay, what does the day-to-day selling look like then? And what's the support system around that?
Yeah. So in terms of, I guess we could sort of start at, the go-to-market and the marketing is sort of generating what's coming in and how I'm kind of outreaching. So we drink our own Kool-Aid. So we've got pretty strong SEO that generates a good chunk of leads. I do speaking gigs and we'll run ads occasionally as well. And we've got partners. They're kind of the four main ways that opportunities are coming in. On a good week, I'll have half a dozen discovery calls with, qualified-ish prospects. I've got a pretty good strike rate. If they are a good ICP fit, I can close a very high percentage of them. So for me, the challenge and the big mission for myself this year is to try to get my calendar more filled in whatever way it can be. So we're looking at content marketing and a range of other things, building the brand. So my growth role this year is both sales, but also marketing and trying to find ways to get myself in front of more audiences, to get the business in front of more audiences, refining our SEO strategy. We're doing a lot of work around multi-platform SEO and AI integration through SEO, just like, we're trying to keep up, and trying to stay ahead of what the LLMs are doing. So did I answer your question? Your question was, what does my day look like? A good day is a number of discovery calls. If I can have a couple of good sized pitches a week, I should be able to close one of those. And that's kind of where I'm at.
What percent is inbound now for you when you get those conversations, right? What percent is coming from inbound versus you outbounding?
Yeah, it depends on your definition of outbound. But if we just talk about inbound through the website, about half, 40%, about 40%. And the balance is referrals and my own outbound activity.
Okay. So let's talk about referrals, because that's one of my favorite topics.
Yeah.
Referrals and outbound. What does your referral process look like? And what does your outbound process look like?
So my referral process has got a lot more rigor to it. Jay's actually someone who's been on my back, who's been on your show before, around building out a proper referral program, a partners program. He was on my back for months about it. I know. And I just never got to it. And then in Q4 last year, I finally went, okay, who's my list of referrers? Who's local? Who's elsewhere? How can I engage? What can be my regular cadence? So I do a monthly email. I've got catch-ups and all sorts of things. We do account mapping, that sort of thing. Referrals have been the biggest driver of new business for us in Q4 last year. And I believe it's probably going to be our biggest driver of growth this year. Those warm introductions, they're just gold,
so golden.
Yeah. And because they know, like, they don't want to refer on someone. You tell them exactly, this is my play area. You give me someone here and we're going to do great work for them.
Right.
If they're outside of here, just give them to someone else. So they present you with opportunities that fit, because they don't want to waste anyone's time. They want to look good as well. That's been a game changer for us, frankly. And it's an obvious one, but it's one that if you put time into it and put some structure and some rigor around it, there's really good returns there.
Oh, 100%. All right. So you have partners, so that helps. And that's one whole set. And I'm assuming somebody's managing those partners, or do you do that too?
It's myself.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
You've got those partners, you're managing them. And we all know The channel takes work. It doesn't just run itself. Okay.
Yep.
And then you've got these inbound, which your SEO is providing, and that's quite high, right? About 40%. We're all wishing for that. So I'm going to ask you for a few tips in a minute, but then you've got the referrals, which is fantastic. And yes, you have to outbound to them, but somebody's making an introduction or raving about you. So it's pretty easy once you get on the phone with them. Either it's a good fit or it's not. Highly likely you're going to close it if it is a good fit. So those probably close at a pretty high rate. Is there any cold outbound that you're doing?
Yeah, so I do a bit of, we've got cold email that runs in the background, and I do some sort of, I should probably preface this too. We've got two types of business that we're typically trying to approach with our inbound or outbound activity. There's the small to mediums with a shorter sales cycle, and then there's our sort of higher mid-market to enterprise. And honestly, like, they're the logos on the site that I sell to the small to mediums by. So, and they are for the enterprise brands. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active there. I'm outreaching via LinkedIn and via my speaking gigs. So in terms of cold outreach, it's cold email, cold LinkedIn.
Okay, that's great. I love hearing that. So there's some amount of cold, because, there's all this talk of the internet about, cold is dead, right? But cold outreach done well, right, is bringing in some really good leads.
Yes.
And so I'm assuming you're probably doing some sales math on, how the cold outreach performs versus the referrals versus the partners versus, right, the inbound. And I think that's really important to know. And like you said, I'm sure the referrals do the best because it's obvious, right? And why wouldn't you? So I think that's very, very cool. And I also love that you're putting yourself out there as a thought leader by doing speaking engagements. I think this is something that every CEO or senior leader could do. Pick a topic you're passionate about and talk about it, right? And help people do what you know how to do, help them do it better, right? So sounds like you're just doing an amazing job. And obviously your growth has shown it. So before we get to the end, I want you to give us a few SEO tips that, like, any CEO who's listening or anybody who's listening could take those and talk to their SEO person, whether they're internal or external, and maybe just turn up the heat a little bit.
Yeah. I think, I can take you through a couple of mistakes that we made and then how we landed on a better result. So when we first built out our SEO strategy for this agency here in the US, we followed now we've realized the more dated approach of city service. So Austin SEO, San Antonio SEO, Dallas PPC agency, et cetera, which is a really great way to get lots of spam form fills and not a lot of good quality leads, frankly. So we ranked for a ton of those, got a bunch of spam through and not much quality. Vertical specific. So if you've got specific verticals that you service, even better if there's verticals in a specific area, that's a better content strategy to try to build around. So we rank really well for Shopify SEO, e-commerce SEO. These are high intent, especially if it's got agency or some kind of commercial term to it rather than just an informational term. So have a think about your ideal clients. Are they national or are they local? Have a think about how they're actually doing those searches. And that might be some more, what we should have done is more sort of qualitative, survey-based research of CMOs and e-commerce managers and the like. Like, how did you find your last agency? Are you using search? What sort of terms do you use? So I think starting with that kind of actual feedback of your customers and your ideal customers, then stepping back and thinking about your site and how can I get that type of content, like a page on my site which speaks to the way that they're doing that search. That's from a strategy perspective. You can fill in the gaps, in terms of content and what to put on the page. I think that's not necessarily easy, but it's the easier part. It's getting the strategy right. And I believe that's probably the best tip I could give you.
Yeah, getting the strategy right to drive the right people to that page full of that content so that they want to act. And thank you for that. Yeah. Okay, great. So what does the future hold? What does it look like today? You're doing great. You're looking forward to all this growth. You're doing all the sales yourself. Do you think, are you going to keep doing that and build even more infrastructure around yourself so you can do it? Do you think you might try again to get some sellers? Do you think you might push harder on your channel? What's the future hold?
Yeah, I think I definitely want to build a sales team because I am passionate about that as a growth mechanism, but I also like coaching people. I like seeing them grow. I like that side of, and I'm doing that with my other staff in my business, but that's definitely on the roadmap, but probably next year or maybe the year after. In terms of like taking a bigger growth between hiring out and strengthening my own internal team and having me have more time to sell. And then, at some point, whether it's late this year or next year, we'll start looking at acquiring, maybe another smaller agency, which is, servicing similar clients to us, ideally similar services to us, but potentially it's a new service that we add on. But we're trying to get ourselves into a position, and in my mind too, if we can do that, do it well, really hold on to some strong revenue and some, retain those clients, maybe then I can get that sales team in that I'm trying to build. So I'm just trying to find the wiggle room.
Maybe you'll inherit some of them if you do some good acquisitions. Who knows?
Exactly.
But yeah, listen, if you want to chat that through anytime, give me a call and we can talk about how to get you the right salespeople for sure.
Yeah, excellent.
Wow. Well, you have shared so much great information with us, and I really appreciate it. And I just have 3 questions to ask you before we part ways today. So I think you know these questions. So here we go. What is a book that you think every CEO should read?
I'm a huge Patrick Lencioni fan, and choosing one of his books is hard, like choosing your favorite child. But I think for CEOs, The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team is the one story book learning that I would share.
Yeah, that is a really good one. And a lot of the CEOs in EOS read that. Patrick Lencioni has been at the EOS conferences and spoken. And
Cool.
So I know a lot of EOS people are big fans of that. And I agree. His books are really useful. Okay, next one. What is a podcast you love because it makes you think differently?
I love Business Movers, the Wondery podcast. So they originally had Business Wars, which was about brands, Coke versus Pepsi. But then Business Movers is about the people within those brands and how they've really helped shape industry. I find it fascinating here. It's like reading biographies of really, really successful people, but getting to hear the backstories behind and the decisions that they made. And, oh, wow, they're actually a human being. So for me, Business Movers.
That's great. I haven't listened to that one, believe it or not. I have so many, but I am definitely going to tune into that one. Thank you for sharing it.
No
and the last question, what does every CEO need to know to win in this marketplace?
I hate to sound like a broken record. I am going to say AI, but I'm going to just make a different take on it because I know that lots of people are looking at AI as an opportunity for production, whether it's code or copy or automated processes, that sort of stuff. And it's definitely got huge potential there. But I think from a client-facing soft skills perspective, the ability for your account managers, salespeople to use it for building intel, building rapport, stress testing a pitch. What sort of objections am I going to get? How can I work around those? Like I'm using it as like a supercomputer-powered executive assistant to really stress test the way I engage with prospects and customers. And I think that's a huge gap that people should be looking at.
Yeah, people are going to have to adapt AI or die.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, you need to know that, your competitors are, and I tell sellers all the time, you're not going to be replaced by AI, at least not in my lifetime, but you will be replaced by salespeople who really know how to use AI to their advantage. So 100%. Everybody's just got to start learning. It's just something you need to do a little bit every day and learn it and use it and try it and help yourself become a better you, be smarter, be able to get information more quickly. I agree with you 100%. All right. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. If people would want to find you, how would they do that?
Probably the best way is LinkedIn. I'm pretty active there. So just search for Russ Macumber on LinkedIn, or if you punch in russmacumber.com, it goes straight to my LinkedIn profile. I'm active there. Feel free to hit me up, shoot me a question. I'm happy to hear from you.
And your website?
Yep, that is impressivedigital.com. So, B2C brands looking for growth. We'd love to talk to you. We've got a growing team. We do really, really great work, and always happy to help businesses grow.
Well, thanks again. And I do hope it warms up in Austin since I'm on my way.
So do I, Alice. Thank you.
Good luck to you. I'm Excited to follow your journey and see what is in the future for you. Thanks for being on the show today.
Cool. Thanks, Alice.
If you enjoyed the show, please like and subscribe, and we'll see you next week.